time for the Tech Addicts. This week we make reference to the Asus ROG Phone 7 and the Asus ROG Ally. Lenovo are getting rid of the Legion, there's some new pylons, Ted fancies a frog, Marshall have been sold, and get ready to feel the buzz. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gareth, the host of the Tech Addicts Podcast, and this is Ted, the co-host of the Tech Addicts Podcast. How are you keeping on this fine day, Mr. Ted Salmon?
Oh, all right, thank you. It sounds like you needed to get the title of the show in as many times as you could in the shortest space of time at the top of the show, in case Bard or PCT or whatever it's called is scouring it.
It is, it's possible, yes. And also, just so that people can be sure that they're listening to the right podcast, we don't want them listening to another one with tech in the title, do we?
No, we don't.
Because they're all vastly inferior, aside from one. But I'm not going to tell you what podcast that is.
Say no more. Say no more. How's your fortnight been? Any catastrophes?
It's been like it never happened. Blink of an eye, and we're sitting doing this again. No, everything's been good. Nothing to report. No gadgetry, actually. I haven't had a single thing, or even a single offer of anything, which is strange.
You still haven't done your Oppo 8 review, I noticed.
I have.
Have you? Oh, I missed that.
I think I even told you that on the last show as well.
Oh, right. Sorry. I must have missed it. I'll go back and check my... Actually, last night I looked through your YouTube videos, and I didn't notice it, because I was looking for it. I shall go and do it again.
I've got a funny feeling that might be the most recent one I've done.
No, the most recent one you've done.
Oh, it's the clear headphones.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it was the one... So I did it a month ago.
Okay.
It's got a whopping 532 views. I don't know what's up with this algorithm. Really don't. But if you put in something stupid and slightly questionable, like if I was to call this, could this be the best phone in the world? I'll get 1 million views.
Yeah.
But then if you call it Oppo Reno 8 Pro review,
Yeah.
no.
And everyone misses it like I did.
Yes.
Yeah. It's all clickbait, claptrap, isn't it? And
It is.
I've said this before, I know, but it must be really difficult for people trying to make a living out of this stuff. And I do feel sorry for people, especially people that would happily have a job in Tesco or Barclays Bank and now can't. They have to find some other way of making a living. I do feel sorry for people. Anyway,
You just have to sell your soul to an algorithm.
Or your body.
Could do that.
Yes. Right, weather forecast is, in North Wales, sunny and cloudy in equal spurts, 15 degrees, and allegedly, according to The Guardian yesterday, it's the hottest day of the year so far. It doesn't particularly feel like that here. They're probably talking about London, aren't they? What about up in your neck of the woods?
It's very much not the hottest day of the year. I did notice that the other day was, or I think it was this time last week, I was getting in the car and it was 15 degrees. But today is between 11 and 12. It's grey with, I think it's threatening to rain.
Yeah.
It looks like there's something, maybe the window, the skylight's just very dirty. Yeah. Maybe I could do that this summer.
I got an alert on my Motorola phone yesterday that said it's a yellow amber wind alert for your location, which is an absolute utter claptrap. There's no wind at all. It's,
right?
These services, some of these. This is why I keep going back to the Met Office, because they just seem to get it right the most. All these other ones, they just talk rubbish half the time.
Whereas by lunchtime you'll probably be clinging to the curtain as your van's tumbling down the hill. Help!
Yes, highly unlikely.
Speaking of alerts, we could go straight into the hardline for the hardware, because there's a segue, and there's a public notice, I suppose, that we could put at the top of the show so that you're all quite aware of it, because this time in 2 weeks' time we'll be doing another podcast, but we won't get it out in time for the 3 o'clock alert.
Can you hear that?
Of UK
Can you hear that
disasters.
lawnmower? As soon as the sun comes out,
No, I can't.
can't you? As soon as the sun comes out, that's it. They're out there cutting the lawn and making noise and flying helicopters and. Anyway, sorry, carry on. An alert.
People and trying to get stuff done at the weekend. It's unforgivable. It really is. Yes, so on April 23rd at 3 o'clock, everyone's phone that's on a 4G and 5G signal is going to go bleep, 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 and it's going to be a test of the emergency alert. People are freaking out. And there was one person that came on the news and I thought, oh, right, okay, that's a sensible thing. But it's also got a darker side to it as well. People who were involved in domestic violence who might have a secret phone for safety, they should take note and do something about that. Where on the other side of that is people who are having an affair and have a second phone. You might need to take care of that, or you may get found out. So, I thought this was quite interesting to put at the top of the show so that people are prepared next Sunday. My mother, who is elderly, will not get it because her Doro is 2G.
Right.
It might be 3G.
3G,
actually. Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Right.
So she will not get it. I do think that they should do something over Wi-Fi as well so that her iPad could at least emit a noise and say that the Vikings are invading once again. It's possible.
I can't believe you can't hear that now.
I can, no.
I think it's a bloody strimmer now.
Go through rocks at them, break the string.
People have got nothing else to do. Why don't they just sit down and enjoy the sun? No, we've got to do something. Let's make a bloody noise, shall we? Just to annoy people trying to record podcasts. Talking of noises, this alert, 4G and 5G signal, it says that it's going to emit a loud siren-like noise and vibrate on your device for up to 10 seconds. People are going to jump out of their skin, aren't they?
Yeah.
Grief.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the whole point, isn't it?
It is, yes, to get their attention. I was watching the Rookie, and I know about a season ago there was a particularly silly episode where there was a nuclear missile or something that was headed toward the western coast of America, and they all had to get into bunkers. And they had the alarm go off on their phone, and that's essentially what this is. But I do wonder if it's going to be used for really, really nefarious reasons. Or are we going to get time for your council tax to be paid? Pay it today. Put out every month with a loud siren.
You'd like to think that Ofcom would make sure that they use it responsibly, wouldn't you? Well, at least in this country.
And it's the British government, you know, they can sell that to the highest bidder.
Oh dear. I can't work out what the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster's got to do with it. Who was saying, put it in your diaries, it's 3 p.m. on the 23rd of April. 23rd of April is St. George's Day, you know. Let's all be British about it, shall we? Perhaps that's why they've done it.
Well, I think they should actually roll out a bunch of differing type celebrities who can help get this across. No, but I guess that there are a lot of people who are not going to know about this, and they're going to freak out whenever it happens. Yeah. And then on the Monday and Tuesday, the 24th and 25th, we're going to hear from those people who weren't aware of it and crashed their car because it scared the pants off them. Yes. And they're going to be looking for compensation because they didn't know the ad campaign wasn't effective enough. And, you know, it's their fault for not tuning into the Tech Addicts podcast because we talked about it.
Yeah, blasted right. They should know better, shouldn't they?
Yeah. So unless they were to change it to something like dogs barking or something like that, or a twinkling star, or you could choose your own tone.
Perhaps you could have a strimmer tone.
Could do.
A grass strimmer. Then you could have it every week.
Well, you wouldn't mind so much then, would you?
Anyway, watch out, everyone, because your phone might just take off.
Yeah, well, we'll report back in, oh God, it's going to be 4 weeks before we actually get to talk about this, and by which time we'll have forgotten about it, and it won't be news. Oh dear. Whose idea was it to go fortnightly with this damn show? Right. Next up, Ted, tell us all about the Sony ZV-E1.
This is the new Sony vlogging camera, which should appeal to you. It does look really nice. USB-C charging, which is great. That's becoming very standard now. I was reading an article this week actually about that DP Review is closing down. They've obviously decided that they can't. That there's not enough traffic for them and advertising presumably on their website and their associated services to justify the payroll and what they do, and so they're closing down. I think it's sometime in April.
Oh dear.
But I did read an article this week that was talking about the fact that video is where it is at, and the camera manufacturers that survive will be the ones that focus on videos, because that's what the kids are doing, and that's what people like you are doing with YouTubing and people doing TikToking and blah 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 blah. So this new device is a full frame. It's got a full frame CMOS sensor. But it hasn't got a mechanical shutter, which I can't really see that people doing TikTok videos are going to be bothered about that. The electronic shutter with faster speeds is going to be much better for them. I think mechanical shutters went out really a long time ago with people that wanted to do fast flash syncing and second curtain stuff and all that sort of thing. People like me back in the old film days. But as usual with Sony, it looks like $1 million. It looks beautifully made. The buttons, if you kind of drill down and look into the hardware photographs, you can see that all the buttons are beautifully Sony style, and it just looks lovely. I wish I was still into photography when I see something like this. I'd love to have this hardware. And looking through the viewfinder, you see a proper camera layout with proper green focus confirmation stuff that you do not get on even the best phones. Well, some of them, the Sony Xperia, you do get that actually, but most of them, you don't know if you're in focus or not. Nobody ever tells you. Anyway, I digress. Looks a very nice device indeed. It's not outrageously priced by the looks of it. Looks like it's going to be about, I don't know, 2,000 quid, which alright, it's a lot of money, but for someone that's vlogging, I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, and someone made reference to the fact that the camera that was in front of them was over £5,000 worth of kit. And so, if you're making a living out of vlogging or YouTubing, then 2,000 quid for a decent Sony bit of kit that's going to do all that for you, and a much more compact thing than a proper inverted commas camera, which could double up as a stills camera as well with a full frame sensor. Then this could really be the ticket. I don't know. Do you fancy one?
Well, I certainly do, but there's no viewfinder on it, so it really is targeted toward video. It's not going to be a cameraman or a photographer's best friend at all, or their go-to when their SLR is at home.
Yeah. But
it's 4K, 120 frames per second with a 10-bit picture, 4x2x2, and that fast sensor means that this is going to be a bit of a powerhouse. It might just be one of those cameras that really sort of takes the crown as a YouTuber's best friend. Yeah, it's good looking. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll wait. When you get one, you can report back.
Brilliant. Yes, I'll just throw £2,000 at this. My wife won't mind that at all. Well, it looks like we're getting a new type of pylon, and they're rolling out between Bridgewater and Luxton in Somerset, which I believe is in England.
Well done.
The National Grid are putting out 36 of these T-pylons, which are going to take over from the typical crisscrossy ones that we've known and hated for many years. And these do look a lot nicer, but it's got to be a massive nightmare for them to have to put these in. Imagine what they're going to have to do, take down all the wires that are currently there. Or are they doing it in a new lane, essentially? I didn't see that, actually, in the main. Are they replacing the old ones with new ones, or are they cutting a new line of them and then getting rid of the old line at a later date? Didn't see that in the article.
No, it's not there, I don't think.
Right.
So we
But
don't know.
what's the benefits of these? Are obviously birds can land on them, and they won't collect quite as much foil stuff as the current ones.
Most of the talk is about aesthetically pleasing and not eyesores like they have been. So they look very much like the wind kind of turbine thingies in terms of style, and they're white, and they reckon they're going to fit into the landscape better, and the Royal Institute of British Architects have agreed with the design and blah blah blah. And they reckon that it will have a reduced impact on the local environment and that sort of thing. I mean, they are much less of an eyesore than the ones we've got, aren't they? But how they're going to do it, I've no idea. Apparently, they've done it in Hinckley.
They would take the opportunity to stick in something that might actually produce a bit of energy as well. Like they could put a rotating jobby on the top.
They could.
That flips around, not vertically, because that would cut the power lines. But if they were to put it horizontally, or something round that would just generate a bit more capacity.
They could, and they could cover them with solar panels.
They could do. Paint it with that solar paint.
Yeah, exactly. So they've missed the boat there, haven't they?
And all the power lines, they could paint those with solar paint as well.
Yeah, and all the roads.
And all the fields.
And the beaches.
Every day, someone's out there. Yes.
Oh dear. Anyway,
well,
very pretty.
No, it's Balfour Beatty won a £214 million contract.
Wow. Oh, somebody's after you.
Yes, that's. I mean, my son loves broadcasting. It means he doesn't have to get up and walk around his room. He can lie in his bed playing his tablet. Yeah, it looks fantastic. It's very exciting, and I look forward to them doing it in other places as well, not just this one. Obviously, it's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And it's costly too. So, Nokia. Nokia's unveiling Pure UI. Not Pure View, but Pure UI. Which is a new multi-platform I got from the article.
I'm not sure
interface.
I'm not sure what the other platforms are, though. It doesn't really. It says that this whole UI is going to be across Nokia products, but then it says it doesn't include Nokia branded products produced under license. So, what is it on the phones and the tablets, and that's it? I didn't quite get where this is going to be going, apart from phones and tablets. Did you?
And smartwatches.
Oh, okay, smartwatches
and laptops.
They haven't got any laptops, have they? Nokia don't make laptops, do they? Or perhaps they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, we've talked about them.
Have we? Well, I was probably asleep at the time. Anyway, this UI looks very Material U, doesn't it? In many ways, it looks very much like what Google have done in some ways. It's very flat and pastel shady. They're also introducing their own new font, which you will like or loathe, I suppose. You'd like to think that there would be a choice of not using that or using it, but I don't suppose you will. A bit like the MeWe app this week. Did you see that? The MeWe app this week, they changed the font and everyone just has to use the new one. End of story.
Oh.
Which I don't particularly like. But anyway, there you go.
No, I haven't. I seldom use the MeWe app.
Yeah, so they're putting these... this UI out across whatever devices you just listed, and actually, all joking aside, it does look very pretty and it looks very nice. It looks quite well thought out. They've got their own icon set and they've got their own bunch of developer tools that so developers can work some of the iconry into their applications if they want to, and blah 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 blah. And yeah, to me it looks very nice. Don't tell me you think it looks horrible.
No, I think it looks fine. I don't ever see myself using it.
Well, you haven't got a Nokia phone, have you?
No, I haven't. I've got a Nokia laptop either, the Pure Book as they're called.
Oh, are they?
I don't have one of their smartwatches. I don't think I have anything. Oh, my son has a Nokia tablet. Same one as you.
Nokia don't have smartwatches, do they? They had that Withings thing, that Withings kind of
Withings?
Withings fitness thingy. But I don't think I've ever seen an actual Nokia. Maybe it's coming. Perhaps that's it. It's new.
The Nokia Steel HR back from 2019.
Yeah, that's basically the Withings thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Withings.
Withings.
As they like to pronounce it. Yes.
Okay.
Their headquarters are in the same building as Oppo.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take my cheek on to the Asus ROG Phone 7. I'm actually going to start pronouncing this Asus ROG Phone 7 because I believe that's how they pronounce it. There's new specs coming out, and it seems to be somewhat the same as the old one, but with I guess you would call that the ROG Phone 6. It's got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in there, which the 6 had. It's got a 6.78-inch 165Hz OLED screen with 6,000 milliamp hours of battery and a 65-watt charging. Does this excite you in the slightest?
Not really. It's too big and too chunky. It depends on what the speakers are like. The ROG 6 speakers were apparently pretty good. I never had hands on with it. But if the speakers are great, mind-blowing, then I might be in for it. If you click on the other link, which I provided in the notes there's also some leaked photographs of the actual hardware, including a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, which suggests that they've done the battery in two halves for some reason, probably to do with cooling or whatever.
Yes.
A 65 watt charger in the box. Well done. And it says that the Aero Active Cooler was certified at what's it called, FCC, and that's all I have to say really. There's not much here, is there? It's not much of an update from 6, which is what people are saying, and we'll get all the details on launch day or notification day, which is on the 13th of April. I've waffled long enough, it's your turn.
Here, it's got a headphone jack on the top of it. There you go.
Very
There's
good.
Something that people can get excited about. Don't you remember that when Jerry Rig Everything got his hands on the Lenovo Legion, he was able to bust it in half quite easily because it had two separate batteries?
Yes, yeah.
That is something that will befall this phone too.
Talking of which, that was a real slinky link. Well done.
Well, we're doing well today. That's two. Yes, Lenovo are going to... Actually, we'll be coming back to ROG later on, with something I'm much more excited about. That's why we're kind of glossing over it. The Lenovo are going to be discontinuing the Legion gaming phone lineup, which, considering what we just spoke about with Asus and ROG, I think is a sensible maneuver because people are moving toward getting Steam Decks and other things that are somewhat similar. So I think that Lenovo is perhaps taking note that perhaps the gaming phone was okay for a while, but they're now backing out of that because it's not really a big market. And I noticed whenever I was reading this very, very small article that one of the comments is that someone has the Legion 2 Dual and hasn't had an update since 2021.
Oh dear.
So for all that money for a nice gaming phone, and then they just abandon it.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is for the better.
Lenovo Roller, they're at it again.
Yeah.
So the market for a gaming phone, apart from the kind of doogie Blackview kind of Chinese cheapo crapo phones, looks like being Nubia's Red Magic series and the Black Shark, which seems to be going the Xiaomi. What is it? Xiaomi's, or is it? Didn't Xiaomi sell Black Shark to someone else? Anyway, whatever it is.
Did Black Shark just align with a hardware company for a while, a bit like Google did with HTC when it was making Nexuses, and then LG for another? I think that's how. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway, so yeah, you're right. I'd be surprised to see if Black Sharks continue much longer, and Nubia Red Magic. I'm not sure about them. They seem to be quite. Be having quite a big following. But ROG, yeah, out there.
Yeah, but we will be coming back to them with
Yes.
excitement and
Right.
stuff that we're very. I'm sure you know by now what it is, but anyway, yes, there's been more leaks on the Pixel tablet front, and Ted, I can't get excited about this in the slightest, so I'm going to let you try to.
Well, there's photographs, and it's passed through FCC, same kind of story, and they're kind of piecing together from that data what it will look like and how it will interact with these the stands. That apparently they've now established that the stands will have magnets, and so on the back of the tablet there will be pogo pins of some sort, so you can just clack it into place and it will stay where you put it. It's got ultra wideband, which means that it might help with tracking other devices. But then, digital car keys was something that UWB was putting into place. But with a tablet, you're not going to really be using it for that. I mean, who knows what UWB is in the mix for? I don't know. They're talking about the possibility of tap to transfer, like Apple's handoff system. But who knows? We shall see. We still don't really know that much about it, but we know enough about it for you to be bored and me to be interested.
Well, there's one little thing about about this. It's if I had a company like Google or Apple or something like that, and I was really excited about launching a new product and trying to keep it under wraps a wee bit so that, whenever it does debut, people go, oh, I'd be really hacked off that the FCC gets to leak, or not leak, but gets to sort of get the word out there. And they're the ones that get sort of the praise for, first finding stuff.
Which is probably why these companies are leaking themselves ahead of that. So, like they did, I mean, Google at last autumn's event actually showed the tablet, didn't they? So it's kind of usurped the FCC, and that leak kind of whole thing. They say, right, this is coming next spring, everyone. This is what it looks like. Here it is, and here's the kind of bones of what we'll be doing, and it's coming next spring. So you can leak as much as you like, but now we've shown you.
Yeah. It's a bit like if you were planning a surprise birthday party for Mr. Ted Salmon, who turned 60 recently, and you've booked out the Scout Hall at the bottom of the road, and you're bringing in the cakes and things like that, and then the Scout Hall goes and notifies you, Mr. Ted Salmon, that there's going to be a birthday party, and this is what it's going to pertain. You're like, ah, bong.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll come back to the hub thing later. There's another teaser for later in the show, because the Google kind of hub phone thingy may become significant in terms of the tablet as well.
Yes, okay. Well, in the meantime, we'll talk about Samsung unveiling a new Android featured display, which has interactive features. And I hadn't realised that these displays were quite so exciting. I got to play with one quite recently, and I actually thought it was really quite cool. And my son said, oh yeah, we've got one of those instead of our Blackboard in school.
Right.
I was like, really? And they do all kinds of stuff with them as well. And kids can come up and interact with them and answer questions on it and things. And the teacher can sort of sit from the computer and just push stuff over to it, interactive stuff for them to play with. And it was really quite cool. And Samsung are obviously jumping on this as well, and they're putting out a new Samsung Whiteboard app with their interactive digital display, the WAC, the WAC.
I was trying to work out what WAC stands for.
That's what happens to the kid if they gets the answer wrong. They get a whack.
I reckon it's white something. No, I couldn't.
That's a great start. They're grey.
White app. No, I don't know. No, as in whiteboard, because the app's called Whiteboard, as you say.
Very good.
Nowhere here does it say what WAC stands for. Carry on.
Yes, it would be nice if we knew what WAC even stood for. The hardware, there's going to be built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and a selection of different display ports, including or display sizes, sorry, 65, 75 and 86 inch models, which would be pretty cool at the front of the classroom for you to watch Star Wars on at Christmas. It's got a 3-in-1 USB port, which seems a bit lackluster for what this is, plus 65-watt external device charging, stereo speakers, not a 7.1 surround sound, no stereo speakers, and an HDMI port. It'll support touch controls and is even compatible with pen input as well, which I believe my son's one in his classroom, which is a bloody Portakabin. You know, I think the screen in there cost more than their classroom. Has pen support as well. But yeah, I think these are really quite cool. And I do reckon that one day these will pretty much, once they merge with smart TVs, these will become the new smart TVs that we have in our living rooms that can do everything. How cool will that be if this was your TV and you were able to interact with it with a pen? Not that you would terribly often, but you'd be able to if you wanted to.
All those, I can't blow this picture up, but all those connections look like they're at the front and down the bottom right-hand corner.
Well, I blew yeah, they are. There's two USB 3s, Ethernet, or as you like to say, in your Oppo way, and what was the other one? Ethernet, HDMI 3 it says there, and then I think that's USB Type C beside it. Right.
And 65-watt pass-through charging, as you said, which means you can presumably you can plug your laptop into the USB-C if you want to, and put stuff up on the screen while your brats all look at it and pretend to work, and it's charging your laptop at the same time.
And there's two on either side of the Samsung, about I'd say maybe about a foot out from each side. There's two indicators for pens.
Oh.
Little white drawings. So I'm wondering if that means they're either stored under there or they change colour whenever a pen is connected.
You got to hand it to Samsung, haven't you? They do get out there and do stuff, and this is very interesting.
Yeah, it's very good for business.
Yeah, exactly. While everyone else flounders around and shuts down gaming divisions and all the rest of it, Samsung are out there just still prodding and poking and saying, let's have a go at this, let's have a go at that, let's see if that takes off.
Well, one company that also does that is Sony, who have announced the WF-C700N TWS earphones and the WH-1000XM5 in a midnight blue colour. Ted, are you excited about these little doohickeys?
I'm not in the slightest bit interested in these stupid C700Ns, but the midnight blue I think that midnight blue is absolutely lovely. And if I didn't have a pair of XM4s, I would now be tempted to buy them because they're blue. They just look so. I love blue stuff, and it's so much nicer than. And it's not a glary kind of Japanese teen blue. It's a subtle, conservative blue, and it just looks lovely. And that's the only reason I highlighted this item. To be honest, they look nice, and I wish I could justify having a pair. But over to you for those horrible-looking in-ear canal bud thingies.
I will concur that the midnight blue is particularly gorgeous. I would like that on my ears and head. Well, the exciting thing about the buds is, whilst they weigh 4.6 grams and they have compatibility with Bluetooth 5.2, SBC and AAC audio codecs, they actually bring the 360 reality audio spatial audio to the technology as well. I'm sure someone out there will go, oh, they already had that, but it's new to me, so I'm reading it out. I think that Sony's really put a lot of effort into making their 360 reality interface or experience really quite cool. And they've invested a lot of time and effort into it. It's got 7.5 hours of playback with noise cancellation, and then 10 hours of playback without noise cancellation. So that's not massive, but then I suppose you put it inside the 300 milliamp hour battery case, and that it can extend them to 15 hours worth of noise cancellation and 20 hours of non-noise cancellation. That's good. That pretty much triples your, doubles your lifetime thing. And there's 3 nice colours. The green looks terrible, the blue looks terrible, but the black and white look spot on. 120 quid.
100 quid?
100 pounds.
Yeah.
100 pounds, yeah. And they're coming out 4 days ago.
It's quite a good price, isn't it?
It is.
You could spend what you save on that on antibiotics, couldn't you, for your ear infections?
Could you? Oh, no, I wouldn't know. I'm in Northern Ireland, so we get free prescriptions.
Well, so do we in Wales, but those people in all the other countries will have to.
Yes, true. That's a bit of a random one, but yes, excellent. Have you ever torn down a battery charger thing?
No.
A phone charger?
No.
Well, over on Hackaday, they've torn down the GAN phone charger, which is a 30-watt USB Type-C charger produced by VoltMe. It costs just £10, but what they found inside was somewhat interesting. Ted, what did they find inside, and can you eat it?
Well, it looks like you should be able to eat it, but it's what they call goop. It's a thermal goop. And they reckon that this goop, that they've basically made this thing, put it onto the circuit boards or whatever, and the components, and then stuck a needle in there and injected the whole of the inside with this self-adhesive thermal goop. And it's just found its way in, like if you were filling up a cavity wall with that kind of foam stuff for insulation, and it's just gone everywhere. And they reckon that this helps to dissipate the heat that is created by the components and moves it out to the outside of the shell, and makes the whole thing inside cooler. And so, we were talking earlier about gaming devices, and you think, well, maybe this is something where there is, for example, the Sony Xperia Series 5, the number one complaint from gamers was the blooming thing gets really hot, so much so that they were recalling them, I think, in some markets, and people were just saying that it was too hot. They had to turn it off. In fact, they had yellow warning triangles coming up on the screen saying, "Beware, your phone might get hot." And it's like they knew. Anyway, the point is that with mobile phones, as they become more and more sealed anyway, perhaps that's what they'll do with these. The last thing at the factory is they stick a needle into the side of it somewhere and inject it with this goop, and then the kind of dissipation of heat will be no longer. It looks a right mess, but I see the logic.
Well, yeah, I'm interested that you went with mobile phones. I went with iMacs. Thinking that whenever the iMac's on its way out, to ensure that no one tries to repair anything or upgrade it, they just fill the entire iMac with toothpaste, and you can't do anything with it. But I suppose that would make it difficult if they needed to, if one of the parts sort of blew or something like that, and they needed to do an Apple engineer repair. Yeah. It might get a bit messy.
I get the impression that this, once in, it's in. I can't see there's any way. There's no way out. So, I mean, going back to what I was saying about mobile phones, that would make them completely eco-unfriendly, because you wouldn't be able to repair them or do anything with it, would you?
Well, also this stuff, like, how good is it with the environment? Does it play well with the environment? It can't be. You can't break it down and then reuse parts from inside this again once it's in there, as you say. I can't see this being a particularly great way of solving things, but it is a unique way of dissipating the heat.
Yeah, and this is only $10, so this is a cheap component, which no doubt the Chinese firm making it are thinking of it as disposable and not at all eco-friendly. Eco-friendliness is probably the last thing on their minds, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Anyway, right, okay, so going back to the mobile phone again, which is now 50 years old, because the first call was made 50 years old, and I think coincidentally the first robocall was received 15 minutes later, where the person who made the first mobile call was offered debt advice. Mr. Cooper and Motorola made the first call back in Marty Cooper, I think it was, the 3rd of April 1973. That's quite a. Not that anyone really actually cared at the time, but now we're talking about it. This is the first I've heard of it. Ted, do tell us about this.
Not much to tell, really. There's the picture of the bloke with this great big lump of a Motorola phone. Interestingly, the buttons are laid out in a series of 5x2 sideways. Not any attempt at all to make a kind of T9 keypad at that stage. And this bloke, Marty Cooper, is gobsmacked that this whole thing is 50 years on, and he's still alive. Apparently, he's still going. He looks like he's very well. Actually, I don't know how old he is now. Or hang on, 94. Oh yeah, wow. He's 94. So good for him. Absolutely.
You notice that he's wearing an Apple Watch?
Is he?
Yeah.
Could be not. There's lots of clones out there.
I suppose, yes, but given his hierarchy, and I'm sure he's not the kind of person who goes out and buys a cheap one off eBay.
No.
He probably has a proper Apple Watch.
But yeah, 50 years, it seems odd that it's that long ago, when actually, most of us on these tech podcasts are relating to stuff from the last, since Nokia communicators, I suppose. So, the 1990, what would that be? 1991 and 1992 onwards. My first mobile phone was in 1992. It was the Sony Mars bar, which I brought to Hark back before. But this is 20 years before that. Nearly 20 years before that. And yeah, amazing how long it's been going.
It is, yeah. But it wasn't quite as heralded as the first phone call. But then I suppose that was a wee bit different, because that was what, England to America or something like that, and the first time that you were able to do something like that.
Yeah,
it was fully groundbreaking. This was merely ground cracking.
With that great big lump, yeah, it would be. Very nice.
Well, it's sad times, Ted.
Oh, Marshall has been... Well, actually, this article says that Marshall has been now sold lock, stock and barrel to Zound Industries in Sweden. And the point is that when Steve and I bought our Marshall Londons, they were all Zound Industries software based anyway. I think that for quite some time the brand has been put out there, and certainly Chinese firms have been making the devices. Now, I don't know about amplifiers and the traditional stuff, but certainly these smaller Bluetooth speakers, which are getting more and more clever. They've got their own app now and all the rest of it. But I did notice that even though they have sold the company, the family, they're retaining the controlling shares of, 24% stake. So I'm not quite sure what that really means, because they've sold 76% of it, which means that someone else is taking, Zound Industries is taking 76% of the money made by Marshall products, but the family still have the majority rule over what they do and how they do it. So it'll be interesting to see going forward what happens when the family fall out with Zound and they decide that they don't agree with what they're doing. I don't know. I suppose in this big business thing, people would have thought about stuff like that. But yeah, it's a mark in the sand, I suppose, as to this what was British company through and through. Everything, even made in Britain, it's just gone global, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. And it will be interesting to see. Obviously, the Marshall name will more than likely never disappear. You think about something like MG, which is just entirely a brand. There's absolutely no links back to the MGs that we know and love from the 1960s, 70s, and all right, the 80s. Whereas today we have something else that resembles it, but it's nowhere near the same, or mini as well. So I think we're going to continue to see Marshall, but it's just been heading that way gradually. They'll be able to sell things with Marshall written on it, regardless of whether or not it's produced in the same way that it was before.
Yeah, I guess so. And they'll just have an eye on making money to keep it afloat in a world where, as we know, prices of everything are being driven down by consumer demand. And it'll be a shame. I've got a couple of Marshall speakers around me. In fact, three of them, and they're so beautifully made. And you think, we hope that doesn't go away, but we shall see.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting little story about a bit of justice. The FBI and the Justice Department have taken down what's called the Genesis market, which was a market that people could use to purchase logins, cookies, fingerprints from breached systems. Hackers could then use those to purchase stuff for themselves or use or gain access to money and two-factor authentication tokens and stuff like that. It was a bit of a big thing. I think it was 120 people were arrested as part of the bust in a campaign that was called Operation Cookie Monster, which isn't quite as fun as it sounds. But it made me think that, now that this has happened, what's the next step? What do they do with that information? I'd like to think that the FBI and the Justice Department are going to go take everyone whose name was included in the Genesis market and reach out to them and contact them, possibly even through their bank, and let them know your details are up here. Do something about it, because that's going to be a nightmare. It's not. I'm sure there's not just one copy of it in Genesis market. I'm sure they've got it from some other market somewhere that they share their resources. A bit like going online and trying to buy a game or something from Steam. You can go to various different websites and get a Steam key and then redeem it on Steam. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, you can buy it from anywhere. So it would be the same as being able to buy someone's fingerprint, which is really bad because that's something that can't be changed. What do you think, Ted? What's happening with the Genesis market in your area?
I think you've probably covered it all there. I can't think of anything to add. It just is a bit of a worry that all this stuff is going on, and I suppose we should feel reassured that the law enforcement agencies do have departments that are still that direct resources into trying to keep people safe in what they do online. This is obviously FBI in America, but it does, as they say, reach 19 countries, and one of them is the UK. And yeah, I suppose we should feel a bit reassured by stories like this, that someone's watching out for us. I guess that the people that have been breached, these breaches, previous breaches, I guess, for example, if Lloyd's Bank was breached, then they would have found that out nearer the time, not waiting for this Operation Cookie Monster to go and find it out. I think this is more about nabbing the people that are doing it, not the actual breaches themselves. And Lloyds Bank customers, when they've uncovered it or given into the ransomware or whatever's come of the incident, they would have been told at that point, not when they've gone around arresting 120 people. But yeah, I don't know, mixed thoughts from me.
Yeah. And also, I think, in the coming weeks, we could see, even if they've arrested 120 people, I wonder how many of those they'll actually fully convict, and what the charge will be, and what punishment will be dished out. So, it could be 120 people were arrested, and then they had to let them all go on a slight technicality or whatever, and they'll just set up the Genesis 2 market or something, or what have you. You just hear those sorts of things going through because justice just gets so complicated, especially whenever it's based around internet things too, internationally.
And people are protected like never before. which is why they shut the roads down for 4 hours at every accident. Arr. Very, very annoying. Nope, you just have to sit there for 4 hours while we get the forensics team out to sort out this accident so that we can make sure that when we come to court, we can actually get a conviction and that someone's not going to slink away with their clever lawyers and say, it wasn't me that fell asleep at the wheel. Have you been subjected to that? I have.
Weird you mentioned that.
Hours.
I was stuck in 3 hours on the way into Belfast on Friday.
There you were.
A lorry had jackknifed, but I didn't see forensics out. They weren't taking any people's pictures or fingerprints or anything like that.
I was stuck for 4 hours once, and it was just so tedious. And the story afterwards was just exactly what I said, that this cyclist had been hit by a vehicle, and they were just making absolutely sure that they got a conviction. And the fact that the road was shut for 4 hours, and this tailback was like 200 miles all the way to Edinburgh from Chichester, didn't seem to matter. You just sit there and wait.
To Edinburgh?
Well, I exaggerate.
That's a lot of roads. Right, okay. Well, I'm going to move into a wee rant about a company called Anker. I'm sure you have all heard of Anker. A couple of weeks ago, or a couple of shows ago, I announced that I was purchasing a new thing from Anker because they had announced the M650 wireless microphone, which is a wee set of wireless mics that you can wear on your person. Yeah. A bit like Rode mics.
Yep.
And if you backed their campaign, then you could save 50 quid off the price of it.
That's right, yeah.
That seemed like a great idea. I gave my pound over to them, and I sat and awaited my code that they would send through that I would be able to redeem against their website to purchase it.
Right.
Or you could go onto Amazon, and then whenever they post it to you, you could send them the code and they would refund you the £50, which is how they worked with Amazon as well. So I did that, and I got my code. And they gave you a really short window of which to redeem the code. I think the code arrived on a Monday morning, which was like the 19th or something, and then by the 22nd, it ran out.
Oh, yeah.
So I went on, ordered, and shipped to me. Brilliant, terrific, excellent. And then walked away from the computer and went back. I got a notification on my phone that they'd received my order, and then I instantly got a notification to say they cancelled my order. Oh, great. And I went up and had a look, and there didn't seem to be any problems with it. And they wouldn't tell me what the reason was. So I started up a dialogue with Anker to say, what's the problem here? And they went, oh, we don't know. Try and order it again.
Oh, you hadn't got it?
No,
right,
no,
okay.
I hadn't. This was straight away.
Okay.
I'd got the code, and that was it.
Okay, right.
So I tried it again. It went through. Instantly got an email saying, no. Oh, great. Right, okay. So I went on to Amazon. I opened a conversation with them and went through that. And I went on to Amazon. They told me to do it that way instead, and then they would send me the £50 back. I was like, all right, okay, that's a bit of a pain in the ass. And Amazon did not ship to Northern Ireland because there's a battery in it. It's like, oh, great. That's you're not shipping to Northern Ireland. They went, oh, right, you're Ireland. Like, no, I'm not. I'm Northern Ireland. I'm not Ireland. That's a different country. And they went, no, we don't ship to Ireland. I'm like, I know you don't ship to Ireland. I'm not Ireland. I'm Northern Ireland. I am in the UK. And they went, no, this is UK only. You can't order from Ireland. Like, oh, listen to what I'm telling you. So I went through this, which is something that I've had a real problem with quite a lot over the years, generally with Amazon and stuff like that. But eventually it worked out that I passed by the 22nd. My code is no longer valid anymore, and they've changed their Amazon listing, so I can actually order it from Amazon, but I can't redeem my £50 back for the code. And I can't order it from their website. It still instantly cancels the order, and I can't put the code through that way. And their customer service is so useless that they just cannot get their head around the fact that, Ireland and Northern Ireland are not under the same postal service. So, you're not delivering to Ireland, you're delivering to Northern Ireland. It's a bit like North America and South America. I tried that analogy, didn't work on them. It's like North Korea and South Korea. Nope, that doesn't work. Really annoying. So I can't get a set of these unless I pay the full price now of £250, which will actually cost me £251, so I have to pay more than everyone else in order to get a set of these. So Anker's in my bad books.
Except there's a £30 token on at the moment, so it's 220, 225.
226 for me.
226, yeah.
Now, most annoyed at that, really quite upset. And I was really looking forward to these as well.
Yeah.
I've been watching a load of videos on them and seen the strange YouTubers that they gave the beta units to.
Yeah.
And they sounded fantastic. Right. They really looked like a good solution for sound. But nope, can't get them. Right. And I'm not going to buy them. I'll get Rode instead.
Well, the Rode ones are cheaper, for one thing.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. So, you'd probably be better off doing that anyway, to be honest. But I don't know. I mean, maybe the Anker ones are better quality, but the Rode ones seem to be the gold standard.
Well, I will say I did hear a comparison between the two.
Right.
The Anker ones are better.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's not going to hold me back. I'll go to Rode because they'll probably, hopefully, with any luck, decide to sell me some, because I'm in the European Union.
Yeah.
England isn't, so I should be able to buy more products here than the UK,
and
England,
also,
Scotland and Wales.
And also, I think as much as we love Anker on this show, I think I'd have more confidence buying from Rode in terms of somewhere down the line. They're a specialist audio company, and Anker just throw whatever they can out there to sell from a Chinese kind of factory. And I think, personally, you'd be better with the Rode ones.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the Rode ones, and they're really not as good as the Anker
They're not
ones.
as cool.
They don't come in that case. They don't have the battery, and they don't have the connection to the top of your camera and stuff like that.
They're not as cool.
The USB Type-C bit,
and they don't have pretty. Yeah, they do have USB-C. They don't.
No, but these can plug directly into the bottom of your phone without a cable. So the USB Type-C is on the back of the unit.
Oh, right, okay.
So it plugs in there.
And also, they don't have the cool colours that Anker has.
I will say that the models on Rode's website are much, much nicer than one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Not leering.
No.
Okay, well, we'll move into the name of the game before I say something silly about those rascals at Anker. We're getting news stories out from Sony that they will be producing a new PlayStation handheld. And initially, most people were quite excited by the idea that it could be a follow-up to the PSP or the Vita, two excellent consoles that they killed before they realized how wonderful they were. But instead, I'm looking in hindsight, probably going, well, we didn't do too well with handhelds because we killed them ourselves. They are lining up what's called the Q Lite at the moment, which seems to be a remote play focused controller setup that allows you to access the PlayStation Store to stream games directly to it, because streaming is what the kids are doing these days. Not a lot is known at the moment. There's supposed to be an 8-inch LCD touchscreen at the center of it, surrounded by the parts of a PlayStation 5 controller. In some configuration, it'll have adaptive triggers and haptic feedback, and it could include volume buttons, speakers, and audio jacks and all that kind of thing. They're not entirely sure, but it's not coming anytime soon. They believe that this will be announced around about the same time as a possible PlayStation 5 Pro at the holiday period of 2024 release, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous, I tell you. Yeah, Ted, do you know anything more? Have you seen anything?
Hopefully, you can still hear me over my Skype connection, which sounds very wonky at the moment.
Sounds fine.
If you can, then all good. But yeah, I'm not really quite sure of where the project's at. Has this actually, this picture we're looking at on this website, is that actually real, or is that a mock-up, or is
No, that's the Vita.
oh, that's the Vita. Okay, so we haven't seen anything in terms of hardware yet for this.
Well, they're showing off the Vita because the Vita has remote play, and it's one of the features that was built into it from the PlayStation 3, that you were able to stream from your PlayStation directly to the Vita on the go. And that's why they even released a 3G version of the Vita when it first came out, so that you could take the Vita with you when you went out.
Right, yeah.
But they killed it with the bloody memory cards that they produced that were stupidly expensive and totally unreliable.
So do you think that this will be whatever it looks like? Do you think that I mean, Sony have got a track record of giving the V's up to everyone around them and saying we're just doing our own thing, like with the Xperia phones, and charging £1,000 for something that everyone charges £500 for. And they just say, if you don't want to buy it, then sod off. We're making it anyway, and if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. And don't expect any updates. And if we fancy give you an update, we'll send it along. But don't you start questioning us. Don't question us. So anyway,
yeah.
Going back to...
Well, they've obviously the big thing that is coming along, and we're going to be talking about this further on. One of the reasons why the ROG phone is probably being, the Lenovo Legion phones are being done away with, is because people are looking at Steam Decks. People are looking at these new super handhelds that allow you to access various different gaming systems. Razer has one coming out. We're going to be talking later about one from ROG. And it would make absolute sense that PlayStation jump on that bandwagon as well. I'm surprised Xbox haven't released one yet, but there has been talk of them releasing a little streaming box instead of a full console that you can access Xbox Gaming Online or whatever their streaming service is called. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
So PlayStation could be going one step further, where they're beating Microsoft to the line with some actual dedicated hardware that allows you to stream from their cloud store of games on streamable titles. If you have a PlayStation 5, you will note that if you go on to the streaming store, you can't download the PS3 games, you can only stream them directly to your PlayStation, which is kind of annoying for people who don't have a reliable, good connection, like most of the world does, but Mr. Ted Salmon doesn't. So he would have a not very nice experience of streaming that. But some PlayStation 4 games you can download, or you can try and stream them if your connection is strong enough. So Sony must be, upping the ante on their streaming to try and get some sort of Stadia-style affair with dedicated hardware that maybe isn't going to cost the earth, but relies, rather than having local storage, it'll rely on a good connection to be able to pull the information down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I look forward to it because it sounds a wee bit different.
Oh, good.
One thing that's going to be different is the fact that E3 is not going to happen. Ted, why is E3 not going to happen?
Lack of interest. E3 is an gaming industry. You should know more about this than me. A gaming industry event, like the kind of CES or whatever, where all the gamers get together and show off their stuff, and they do this every year. They after the COVID thing, they got it back to being in person, and now they've decided that they're cancelling it. They're not saying that they're cancelling it forever. They're just saying that this year they're cancelling it. Where was it supposed to be held?
It's usually in Vegas, is it not?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Well, they've decided that there's not enough interest. What's the actual quote? It says, "It simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry." So, the shortcut message there is that nobody's interested anymore. It seems all very odd, doesn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say nobody. I think it's down to the bigger companies, the likes of Ubisoft and Electronic Arts and stuff like that. They maybe don't see the need to spend money going and announcing a game alongside all of their competitors at one show.
Right.
Whereas the smaller indie ones who come along with they're the creative drive of the gaming industry. They show off these games that actually look much more exciting than what Electronic Arts is trying to push out there. Having something like Cuphead over something like Battlefield 97 or whatever. You have those two together, and people are going to be gravitating toward Cuphead a good bit more because it's going to be a wee bit cheaper, a wee bit more fun, a bit more interesting, something, and a bit light and poppy. So with them pulling out of these sorts of shows because small indie developers are showing them up, they can afford to be able to have a big song and dance about their new version of Battlefield that's coming out later this year, and release it and do their own ad campaign. And then the little indie developers don't have a big show like this to be able to show it off to the industry professionals, because the E3 can't be sustained by the smaller indie developers that are bringing their little homemade products or small team products to the floor.
So this is a bit like Samsung doing their own launch events and not going to MWC and stuff, saying we're not going to that, and then MWC will have to decide whether there's enough interest with other manufacturers, like there was with Huawei this year, for example, to actually still carry it through. And obviously E3 have decided not.
Yeah. If all the big companies pulled out of MWC, what happens to the little brands that make phone covers or cables and things like that? They're not able to show off their stuff and have to rely on digitally putting things across, which are less likely to get picked up by the bigger companies to advertise and stuff.
Yep, with you. Okay.
Yeah, so it could be a sad thing, but hopefully something will be worked out instead, like E3 goes online, and they just, because indie games are genuinely important to the industry entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Yes.
To stuff that I have been talking about really for the entire show. The ROG Ally.
You're such a tease.
Yes. Excuse me. I first saw this, I think it was Linus Tech Tips, and a couple of YouTubers managed to get them. They were flown directly to them, and with I think some sort of representative of ROG to ensure that not too much information was given away about these, because they are likely to change. And they're not allowed to benchmark or have battery tests or know exactly what the full hardware is inside. They wanted to tear these down and have a look at what was making them go, but they weren't allowed to at this moment in time, because this is a new Steam Deck style gaming console that has a lot more power, they claim. It's got a 1080p display that runs at 120 hertz. And it's apparently the new custom AMD AAPU should be able to run what you run on your Steam Deck twice as good, or twice as good, better and stuff. And it'll be able to access Steam and Xbox, and I believe Android gaming as well. I saw someone mention that at some stage, and it's got some dedicated hardware buttons that allow you to pull in from the side and be able to configure things on the fly. It did look a lot more accessible than the Steam Deck, but they're both new products with new trying to do something that's actually quite difficult, because not all Steam Decks are, or not all Steam games are what's the word?
Compatible?
No, changed so that they work better with something.
Adaptable?
Revised or whatever. They work. Not all of them work well with the handheld format, and they're gradually trying to get most of them to work well with the for the lack of a better word.
Right.
But yes, it's a good looking device. It doesn't look quite as.
I don't think that's the first thing I was going to say, is that it looks ugly and horrible, a bit like the Steam does, really. And I was just comparing the look of that, thinking, I hope they're going to make the design more pleasing than just what looks like a brick, really. I'm specifically comparing it to the last story, really, which was about, or the story before last, and that lovely picture of that Sony device. And put that against this, and this is as ugly as sin. The Sony device looks like it's really beautifully designed, and
the Vita.
Yeah, I know that it's not the real product coming, but even so, I bet you the Sony design will be much more pretty than this is. This just looks like a lump and a block to me, really ugly. But then the Steam does as well, I think.
The thing you have to know about the Vita was that it was not a comfortable console to hold.
Don't care about that.
And you were better off buying a grip to keep it in. But I watched I think it was Linus who unboxed this, and had an initial play with it, and he picked it up and he thought it was fairly uncomfortable. But then whenever he set his hands down on the desk, it suddenly became super comfortable, because the grips around the back and the layout of the buttons are designed for you to set this on something whenever you're playing it, whether it be a cushion in front of you or a desk in front of you, and play it that way, as opposed to sitting on the train, playing it in the air,
right? Which
I think the Steam Deck works better to do.
Okay.
But yes, I do think it needs a wee bit more of refinement and a wee bit more of a few nice daubings or something like that to flex stripes, go faster stripes and things on it to make it look a wee bit more appealing. Because the Steam Deck isn't a particularly attractive device, and it never was. It certainly does, but maybe it's familiarity, look better than this. But apparently this sounds better, runs better, and it's a wee bit more comfortable to hold. So it's got it in that respect. And it lasts longer, and it runs games at a higher level of detail on a better screen, faster.
Be interesting to see how much it ends up costing, won't it?
Well, Asus said it's going to be competitive. They haven't announced any prices yet, but it's going to be competitive. And I reckon it'll probably be about £600.
Right.
You know, it's not going to be able to beat the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck starts at about $349, I think, and then there's $449 and $549. So I reckon this will probably come in the base model, be about $600, and then the top end model will be about $1,000.
Okay.
That's my speculation.
And the word ally.
It's your ally that you take with you.
Okay, yeah, right, okay. It's a bit obscure.
And anyone who's quite interested in it, I'd go and watch that initial trailer that I've linked to in the show notes, because it's quite funny, actually. It's got a few zombies and things and a lighting man and stuff. I giggled a wee bit when I watched that. I'm quite excited about this, to be honest. I think Jesus got about this the right way.
Okay. We should look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. In the meantime, determined to get in on the gamingness that's taken over the world, Netflix are announcing that they're testing they're having games on the TV screen using your phone as a controller, because you know the way we all love using our phone as a controller for games.
No.
Yeah, well, they're having a go at this, but I do wonder in what way the games are going to be. I can't imagine it's going to be Super Mario Brothers with phone controller. I think this might be, because they've played a few TV shows. I think Bear Grylls did one, and there there was something else as well. There's a new trivia thing I think you can do as well on Netflix, where it is like an interactive game, and you make decisions like those old Dragonlance books, where you can choose what happens next. Was it Black Mirror did it first with Wondershare or Wonder something?
Don't know.
Where you at certain points it said, "What do you think should happen next?" She kisses him, or she runs away,
right.
and you click one, and then you follow that plot
Okay.
line. And I'm wondering if they're looking
Oh
into
yes, it
making...
was. You're right. It was the most recent series of Black What's It, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, carry on.
No, there was another one, Bear Grylls, that I remember going through where, he I think he got mauled by tigers and stuff, or lions, whenever he was out in the outback if you made the wrong choice and stuff. My son went through that and found it quite entertaining, but never went back to it again. There wasn't enough of a draw. But, Netflix games has the potential to do something different, and I quite like the idea of what they might be doing.
Perhaps this is what Amazon should have done, instead of trying to push out their own hardware for their gaming platform. Because Netflix are saying, well, we could make a handheld device controller, which everyone would have to buy, but actually everyone's got a phone in their pocket. So let's not do it that way. Let's just make it available for people to use on their phones. And they got that hardware anyway. You can see the logic, but
having a dedicated controller is not something that's going to be easily accessible to the majority. Not everyone's TV has Bluetooth, so you can't pair.
Right.
And Netflix is just software streaming.
Okay.
It's going to be quite a bit for them to actually create an app that Bluetooth shares with hardware, or Bluetooth syncs with hardware.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. There must be entertaining something, and perhaps it'll only come up to select devices or whatever. I don't think Roku supports Bluetooth, does it? I don't think it does.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I've got devices hooked up by Bluetooth.
Okay. All right. Well, do tell us about the Data Frog.
No, it's your department.
Well, you're excited about it. You can start us. I'm sure they're sick of hearing my voice.
The Data Frog is an exceptionally cheap gaming handheld shaped like a Super NES controller. Yay! And it does look very much like that, doesn't it? A little screen in the middle, which is, how big is the screen? 720p screen, 3 inches across, 60 hertz refresh rate, 1 gig of RAM, and get this, it costs 23 quid.
Wow.
Or $23. USB-C charging, card slots. Presumably, this really is your department, all joking aside. Presumably, you'll be able to kind of go and collect games of whatever shape and size you want, put them on a card, plug it in, and you're away in an uncontrolled fashion, like you are with Evercade or whatever, where you're kind of stuck with what they give you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, having a look at it, it's got 7... It's not calling them emulators, it's calling them simulators, which is a bit weird.
Right.
And that includes the Famicom. They're only initials, so that they don't get, don't arouse suspicion, I'm guessing. Famicom, Super Famicom, Mega Drive, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, and MAME, which is arcade. It supports download. It's got an IPS HD screen. That says it twice. I don't know why.
Right.
It's got a lithium cell inside. You can get it with 6,000 plus games, and it's got a 3D rocker, which is... it's got one thumbstick. I see that, yeah.
It's a lot of hardware for $23, isn't it?
It certainly is, and I guarantee it. I'm going to say it's got an 18,650 battery. I think they might have left in one number there that shouldn't be there.
Is that, well, presumably if it's USB-C, it's a rechargeable battery. Yeah. I don't know if you'd be able to swap out AAs or something as well.
Yeah, a gigabyte of RAM. I don't know that this is quite right. I think maybe the specs are a wee bit different on site to site.
Right, okay.
But yes, at that price, it's worth having a look at it, I'm sure. The plastic will probably be a wee bit tacky.
Yeah.
But it's got the SNES layout, so that's kind of cool.
It's a stocking filler price, really, isn't it? You could just get this for your kids and chuck it in the stocking at Christmas. $23.
Doesn't go to PlayStation 1, so they're pointing that out. So it's not powerful enough for a PlayStation 1.
Speakers on the back.
Which is the worst place for them. 3-inch screen.
Charging port. So, I think that looks really nice. And the styling, like Nintendo, is it makes it even better.
Yeah. Well, you can order them now. They're not shipping just yet, but you can order them now.
Right. From AliExpress.
I think so. It's 36 Canadian dollars.
£15.31 they are. It's not even 20 whatever I said. It's £15.31 on AliExpress. Maybe this is a con.
Well, you could always order one and find out.
That's amazing, isn't it? First order price, welcome deal, £8 off. Oh yeah, it should be. What does that say? It should be 30 quid. Oh yeah, the real price in pounds is £30.53, and there's a 49% off bargain if you buy one now. Wow.
Yeah. Well, let us know in about 6 weeks whenever you get it.
It's almost tempting to buy it, but I don't like buying from AliExpress. Anyway, yes, carry on.
Well, you could always continue your quest to get yourself one of the bigger Nintendo Switches, the one with the detachable sides. What's the difference? There's the Switch Lite and then the Switch. It's supposed to just call the Switch, isn't it? Nintendo is going to offer unlimited free repairs for Joy-Con drift throughout Europe, which is particularly good. I know my daughter has a problem with her Switch and Joy-Con drift, but we didn't realise that they were doing free repairs. I think she ordered herself a new set of Joy-Cons, or the bits that you stick on the side at one stage, and then they started to go quite quickly. So we'll have to take out the originals and send them back, because there's a link on the Engadget site as to how to get this fixed.
Very briefly, can you just explain to listeners what the Joy-Con drift is?
Okay. The way Joy-Con, or the joysticks on the Switch works, it all is down to the very bottom of the pin. The other end of where your thumbs sit,
right.
And they gradually wear down the more you use them, and that can cause them to very slightly become unaligned, essentially. And then you'll notice that it's like you're going up or whatever direction it wears down in the most. So if you're sitting there, you could notice that your character starts to walk in a different direction whenever you're supposed to be standing still.
Oh, I see. So if you don't touch it, it still moves.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a problem that happens with most things. There's a new way that they're bringing out where they're using magnets. Actually, the Anbernic RG353M that I purchased just before Christmas, it has these new magnetic Joy-Cons, so it'll never suffer from stick shift, apparently. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up purchasing it, because it doesn't use the standard ways. But everything down to even PlayStation will more than likely start to suffer Joy-Con drift eventually, the more you use it.
Okay. And the news here is that they have been supporting repairs on this, but not everywhere. And now they're... right, okay.
Yeah, they're bringing it to the European Economic Area, UK and Switzerland. Okay. They've had it in America since 2019, so it's great that it's rolled out here, and that should really help people either replace or go out and make that decision, because I've never bought a Switch having seen my daughters go this way. I don't know if it affects the Switch Lite as much, but it would do. But it doesn't mention the Switch Lite here.
My Switch Lite doesn't have that problem.
Not yet,
No,
but it might
right,
do
okay.
one day.
Yeah, if I used it much more than I do.
Yeah, and once you get yourself a data frog, you'll never need to use your
No,
Switch again.
never.
Okay, so TikTok. We're going to go into flap your trap about an app, sorry. TikTok has been fined $12.7 million for illegally processing children's data because no one is allowed on TikTok who's younger than 13, isn't it, Dave?
I think it is, yeah. But the thing about this whole story, as usual, is if you were a TikTok owner, how could you possibly... What could you put in place to make sure that they're being fined for not putting enough measures in place to make sure that children don't access stuff they're not supposed to? But in this world of the internet, and how on earth you can't go around, TikTok can't go around getting photocopies of people's birth certificates and passports and driving licenses to make sure they're of an age. That kind of system just wouldn't be supportable. So what are they supposed to do? I don't get. They've been fined for not doing enough to protect children. What could they have done? Do you see what I mean?
Oh no, I do absolutely, and I look to TikTok and I suppose YouTube as well as great examples of, TikTok managed to keep pornography off their platform. Which is terrific. That's got to be a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that they keep... I don't use TikTok, so I'm not sure.
I never see any.
Ted, you're addicted to it. So
I never see any. I honestly say... But then I haven't gone and searched for it, so maybe if I searched for it I would. But no, I don't see it.
Well, it's my belief that they've managed to keep the platform somewhat clean of it, which has got to be difficult. And I think that's them doing their job of keeping the right content on there. Yeah, of course, there's the whole other side of false news and all that kind of stuff. That ends up being a much more deeper conundrum. But I think that this needs to actually really be put back onto the parents. That knowingly have a child that has a mobile phone with TikTok. It can't be up to TikTok to control who is on their network, and as soon as they start asking for birth certificates, it's like, oh, China's asking for birth certificates.
Yeah.
What they can't do that.
Exactly.
They're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Yeah.
I do feel for them here. This is somewhat unfair, and it seems that the American and British government have just declared war on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I have no loyalty to TikTok whatsoever, but watching it from outside, it just seems deeply unfair, and they're pushing to try and just destroy the platform through whatever means they can.
Yeah.
Not that they need to, because there's no evidence that they're doing what they're suggesting they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. TikTok just always seems to be in the news, doesn't it? The next story is about the fact that in Norway, there's a manufacturing plant or plants to do with the Ukrainian defence during the conflict going on, and TikTok have set up a data centre in Norway, and it's nicking all the electricity. So no one, because everyone in the whole world seems to be on TikTok, they're having to process all the data, and this data center is taking so much power to run it that you can't turn your lights and your heating on down the road because they're nicking it all. So I don't know. If TikTok get banned from every country in the world except China, all this infrastructure would be so expensive to unpick. And following this whole TikTok story and the Americans and the Chinese and all that is really quite interesting to see where it might end up.
It is, absolutely. And we still haven't been given like a smoking gun of evidence to say that they are as bad as as our
No.
governments are saying
No.
they are. That I haven't seen anything. I'm not particularly in the know whenever it comes to TikTok at all, and I try to avoid it. I only talk about it with you. But
Oh dear.
if they're collecting all that information, they should be able to find the data packets going from TikTok out to the Chinese government with the information in it.
Yeah.
They've been able to do that with the likes of WhatsApp and Facebook and Huawei and things in the past. Why can't they do it with TikTok?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think it's about the West versus East thing, isn't it? And like Huawei to some degree. I mean, no, I'm not going to get into Huawei because I got told off before for not understanding the politics and not understanding it properly. But if TikTok are mining data for the benefit of the Chinese military, then okay, I suppose America have got a shout on that in the same way as it would be the other way around, I suppose. But I think it's all part of this kind of just... Anyway, let's not get into politics.
Yeah. So we'll move swiftly away from that onto Western Digital, who got hacked.
Oh dear.
And their MyCloud data got hacked. And this was particularly nasty because it actually meant that those who had local backups attached to their computers on their physical hard drives were unable to access the data on their drives. Now, I know this took place, but I've never seen an outcome from this as to whether or not people were able to retain their information on their drives or get access to it again. Ted, do you know if they were?
No, I don't know anything about the story really. Except to say that I've got Western Digital devices and I never put anything on their cloud. I wouldn't do that. I have my own arrangements for my backup. Presumably this means that if I've never had a MyCloud account with my data on it, then my local storage on my Western Digital devices is not in any way at threat because they couldn't get to it, could they? But it's only people that have decided, yes, I'm using MyCloud. To be honest, I don't know that I even knew they had a cloud service that you could back up to. Why would you do that instead of a load of other services? Maybe it was because it's cheap, or it's given away with devices, is it?
MyCloud is, it allows you to be able to access those hard drives whenever you're out. So a bit like, say, Plex does.
Yeah, sure.
But it's that way, or Synology does as well, and you can access the contents of a hard drive, and the three people that use it are probably quite happy with it, but a bit annoyed at the moment.
But you could do that accessing your data from anywhere on 1,001 other services. Unless, as I say, Western Digital give this away. I didn't notice when I bought my WD devices that they were offering me free MyCloud or cheap MyCloud compared to what I might pay Google or anyone else or Dropbox or whatever.
When I first bought my, I think whenever you buy a Western Digital drive, it comes with an executable on it that allows you to install it on your computer, so it kind of encourages you to do that.
Oh, okay.
And it's advertised on the back of the box. But
I've deleted that.
I think I had a quick look at the prices. Yeah, me too. And I think they all have them as well. In some way, there's usually something on the hard disk whenever you buy it.
Right.
But I had a look at the prices and just went, oh, delete that, done, and I've never looked back at it again. But it's been running since 2001.
Okay, so anyway, the story is that the unauthorised party obtained certain data from its systems, and Western Digital have said that not only does that impact what you've held on the cloud, but it also, if your device is connected to the MyCloud service, it may also affect what you've got on your physical device, which is actually a bit worrying, isn't it?
Well, a service status update right now is that the cloud side of it is still down. However, local access is up and running.
Right.
So you can access it, but you just can't get to it via the cloud. And it's been down since the 2nd of April when they had a service outage.
What a disaster. I wonder if it was a ransomware.
Yeah, I think I heard it was actually, but I can't quite remember. I didn't pay too much attention to it because I couldn't imagine there were too many people affected by it, but there must be.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. So Google Podcasts has reached 500 million downloads. Most of them are tech addicts, I'll have you know, as YouTube Music is preparing to overshadow it. So is this news that we're getting rid of Google Podcasts and it's all going to be integrated into YouTube Music?
It seems very complicated. At the moment, in America, if you go to YouTube, not YouTube Music, but YouTube itself, some people are seeing a tab in YouTube that has got podcasts on it, but it's only there if you subscribe to a channel where the channel creator has actually marked their content as podcast. So my thought went to you actually with your, what you tried to do about putting our shows online is that if you, you as a creator in YouTube were to market podcasts, then in America anyway, no doubt it will come to the UK, but in America at the moment, whoever subscribes to that channel that you create will get that tab and they'll be able to access that podcast in a podcast tab and it will be organised in that way. Now, having said that, no one else sees that tab unless you happen to subscribe to a channel where the creator has done that. And, as I say, it's nowhere except in America where people are seeing this. As for YouTube Music, no one knows. It's a real complicated mess, and no one seems to know if this whole thing is going into YouTube Music or it's going into YouTube. Google are on record as saying that Google Podcasts, the app, which has now got 500 million downloads, is not going away. And so I think it's just a confused mess, and no one seems to know, probably Google themselves too, what on earth is going on.
Yeah. I don't think Google has a clue what they're doing with these, and they're kind of just sort of rolling with it and seeing, do people seem like they want to use YouTube Music for podcasts more so than the Podcasts app? It gets really annoying as well, especially whenever you're on YouTube and you start getting advertised, or in your upcoming videos of what you should watch are songs that you might listen to on YouTube Music. For you to listen to whilst you're sitting in your armchair. And it's like, why are you bringing that through? I'm sitting down watching YouTube. I'm not preparing to listen to music.
Yeah, what they need to do really is just roll the whole thing into one and just say, right, here's YouTube, and YouTube just does the whole lot, and everything in this kind of sphere is accessed through there. Anything visual or audio, that's our channel, and that's what we do. But as I say, they just seem to muck about with it. Yeah,
they do. Yeah. Google. Right. Audible's testing ads in their audio books.
This looks awful, doesn't it?
You got to wonder if this means that they're going to be bringing along a free Audible thing, or is it going to just be with subscribers?
That's the big question, isn't it? I'm an Audible customer. I don't pay them a monthly fee anymore, but I have got lots of books. And I did wonder, as did other people, as a not a current subscriber, does that then mean that my audiobooks that I have previously bought and own, inverted commas, or own the right to listen to, are suddenly going to get littered with adverts?
Yeah.
And people, or as you say, that there's a new tier of like Netflix have done, of advertisement supported audiobook listening. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's entirely likely. There's probably you jump on, grab a bunch of books, or you've maybe got an offer or a gift card or something like that. They're not going to make that much money from repeat listenings, or no, you wouldn't listen to a book. Most people are once and done with an audiobook, wouldn't they be?
Depends what they are. I repeat listen to quite a lot of them, but I do take the point. You like a film, you'd probably only watch it once and then maybe another time, but yeah, sure.
No, with a film you watch it all the time. You try to have a regular interval. That's why you buy the DVD or the 4K or whatever.
Well, you could say the same thing about an Audible book, couldn't you?
True. But it takes an awful lot longer to listen to an Audible book. Yeah, listen to one than it does to watch a movie.
Sure.
But yes, it does sound a bit concerning, and I'd hate to be confronted by an ad in the middle of a book that I've paid for.
Yeah, that's the difference,
because
isn't
they're
it?
greedy.
That's the difference, is that if you go into it knowing this and say, right, I'm going to get ad-supported books, and I accept that, then fair enough. Like buying or listening, watching YouTube. You say, I'm not paying YouTube any money, so I'll accept the adverts, and that's it. But for me, as I said earlier, I've already bought that stuff, and if they start putting it in the middle of that, then it's just going to encourage black market as well. People are going to go off and rip their own audio and not.
Well, where did you get the information that it might be in one that you've purchased?
I read it
because I did in this article.
No, in my general, it was the fears of some users. I read a number of articles about this, and I haven't got them to hand. Sorry, but yeah, some fears with that.
Right. Because I did see the line earlier on. Was it ad-supported limited set or something like that? Where I was imagining it was going to be a bit like Amazon's magazine selection, where they'll give you, or Xbox, where they give you a bunch of games, but they'll have ads in them, so to get you into the mold of listening to Audible books,
right?
And then you can start buying your own, because if you're getting a free selection where they could have some big hitters, that people are going to want to listen to,
right?
Then they'll throw out a few ads throughout that. Maybe every time you try to listen to a bit, you'll get an ad at the start, at the end, or whatever.
Yep.
Perhaps, but
maybe.
Yes, it does seem to be a limited set.
Yeah.
Which would be, I suppose, I'd be okay with that, because it gets you to test it out, and you might be able to listen to something for free that you might not have necessarily purchased.
Fair enough. Yep, I agree.
Okay. All right, so Google Keep is going to make better use of its dual pane designs on tablets and foldables. Ted, I would be excited about this. Tell me what am I going to see?
Well, it's really simple and really quick, and this should have really been in Chrome Corner, to be honest, because it's at the moment with Google Keep, you if you've got the tablet layout, you can see the bunch of articles on the left panel, and the open one then on the right. And this simple change means that you can, from when this effect changes on your device, open two articles at the same time, two notes, two whatever you saved at the same time. Uh-huh. So you can have one on the left and one on the right, and that's it. That's all the difference is. And then to get back out of it, they've introduced this new kind of back button thing, which gets you back to the menu of all your stuff. So yeah, simple change, but yeah.
So you can compare notes.
You can exactly, or you can copy and paste stuff between them, and you can do what you like in that respect. But up to now, yeah, you can only have one open at a time on that array.
Wow, that means you'll be able to get rid of all the shit right down at the bottom of it, because you just, I can't be bothered dealing with that. I actually feel if it's a bit more intuitive and easy to do, then you could actually spend 5 or 10 minutes getting rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway, there you go. That's
all
a
right.
quick one.
Speaking of things cornery, let's go into the Chrome Corner where Ted can crone on about the... Oh, dear.
Yes. Right, Google launches Ad Transparency Center as a searchable database. This means that Google are going to make available this transparency center, so you can, if you want, look at how a organisation have monetized their advertising. For example, if you see an ad for a skincare product, goes the 9 to 5 Google example, you're interested in, but you don't recognise the brand, or you're curious to understand if you recognise other ads from this brand, with the Ads Transparency Centre, you can look up the advertiser and learn more about them before purchasing or visiting their site. So it's almost like a bit of a Trustpilot situation. You go off and have a into before you go and click on an advert as to what they're about and what they're doing. And the Transparency Centre that Google are apparently going to launch sometime soon will enable you to go and dig deep and find out who's paying Google what and for what.
Excellent. Okay, that sounds like actually quite a useful service.
Yep, okay. Chrome's upcoming reading mode looks like it's going to be more expansive than other people's reading modes, in the sense that now I'm not a fan or a user of other device how they've done it, but what they're demonstrating here is that you not only can you get the reading mode up, but you can also change the font, and you can change the size of the font, you can change the layout and the colour of the background and the colours of the fonts, and essentially on your side panel thingy, what's it called? The side
reader list, isn't it? Reading list?
Side panel, it's called, yeah. So
right.
reading mode, not reading list. Reading list is something different. Reading mode, which is the one that's coming soon, will enable you to do all those things on the right hand side. So it strips out all the images and anything else that you don't want to see, and just gives you the text. But the difference here is that they've basically built in a Google Docs word processor into that panel when it's open, and you can adjust and change the text and do whatever you like with it once it's open. And apparently, my caveat is that I don't use other ones, but apparently that's fairly unique, or it is unique, in amongst screen readers. So that's coming to Chrome. Watch out for that one.
Okay.
Did you want to say something? No?
No,
Okay.
far away.
Vivaldi for Chrome OS was reviewed by somebody in Cross Experts or something, which I happened to stumble on this week, and it looks like it's got some interesting features if you want a change from Chrome in Chrome OS, and you can install and use Vivaldi. And one of the interesting things about it is, I don't know if you can click through to that and see the stacked tabs. Well, in the same way as you could have, for example, stacked tabs in some of Windows dialogues, like the sound settings or whatever, not only can you have tabs going across ways, but also you can have different layers, so you can layer them up the way as well as across ways. And Vivaldi is doing that for people that want to use it. There's lots of customization options. The translation stuff has been improved, apparently, although I can't believe it's better than Google's. And media control inside tabs has been attended to. If you fancy a play with something other than Chrome on Chrome OS in your Chromebook, then have a look at Vivaldi. And lastly, there's an article about, which I've linked to, about streaming apps to Chromebooks. Now, this is tied up, like I was saying earlier, with the phone hub. Now, as a Chromebook user, you'll know what the phone hub is, and you'll know how limited it is. They keep creeping things into it, like, for example, recent photos, and you can now see that if you've got the right version of Chrome OS running. And what they're doing here is that they're saying we're going to extend the hub to actually run applications. So if you think about how Dex works, for example, or Ready For on your Windows computer, then what they're saying is, or indeed Microsoft Phone, the phone link, they're talking about with certain devices, they're talking about allowing you to actually run stuff inside your device, inside these windows, coming from and powered by your phone. So it's effectively becoming a next dock type device where you run stuff from your phone. So it's becoming a kind of mini Dex, really. And this is where Chrome, where Google were heading with this when they started the hub. It's just that it's taken them so blooming long to get there that everyone's forgotten about it. Now, the criticisms of this scheme is, well, actually, this can't really do anything you can't do with the Play Store. If you've got your Chromebook on Play Store, and you've got your apps all in there, well, it's the same thing, surely. The phone hub is only good for the communication side of things. You can access everything else. Well, my view is that It's possible that the phone hub is going to be amalgamated with the Play Store in some way, and they're going to make this a whole DeX environment, a ready-for environment, which will be absolutely great. And it will be, I think that, as usual with Google, things just take forever to do, and I think that these are steps along the way. So I think that's what I picked up from that article. Anything to add?
No, it looks quite interesting, and there is so much potential in this, but it is an infuriating wait, and just seeing it really slowly eking together. Yeah. But I'm really interested to try Vivaldi. I do every now and again. I think every 2 years or something, I'll go and download Vivaldi to the desktop and see what's different.
Yep.
Because it's the one sort of browser that everyone uses Chrome and Firefox. And I've dabbled with Edge, which started out quite well, but ended up with a bitter hatred. And then, Opera's never as good as you'd like to think it's going to be.
Yeah.
But Vivaldi's
you had to go with Brave, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And I'm quite excited about Arc browser, which is one that looks like they're really taking on board. They're only taking emails. You can't get a beta or anything of it just yet. Right. But I think that's going to be one that's going to be quite interesting going forward.
Very good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll try Vivaldi. But Chromebooks are built for Chrome. It seems silly to run something that's not Chrome.
Personally, from my point of view, I totally agree, and I wouldn't be bothered about these other things. But my Chromebook, I want to be a Google machine. But other people think differently, of course.
Yes, and Google's even going to respond.
Yeah, thank you. Clear off. It says, do you want me to tell you a joke? The joke is that you keep popping up when you're not invited.
Oh, right. All right. Well, I figured in this week's Hark Back, because we're still waiting for Ricky to come along with the PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah.
I'd do one that I'm hoping that Ted might have never heard of before. I might go, really?
Really?
Initially, Sega is known for 3 big consoles back in the 80s and early 90s. The Master System, the Game Gear, and then the Mega Drive. And then they did the Saturn and things like that afterwards. But there was one little console that popped out around about 1995. And they made it for about 4 years. And I never heard of it at the time. I came to it later on thinking it was just some sort of beta unit that a lot of people had that never really got a full release. But it did get a full release, and that's the Sega Nomad. This was, to all intents and purposes, where the Game Gear was the portable Master System. This is a portable Mega Drive. It's a handheld console that uses the entire of the Mega Drive and the Genesis library of games that you could plug in and play on the go. It was powered by the Motorola 68000, which I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, but I can't remember why. It was in the Atari Jaguar as the support processor, but it used that particular processor, which was good enough to be able to run the Sega Genesis operating system and the games that it would play. It had a 3.25-inch backlit color liquid crystal display, and it had a funky little AV connector that allowed you to do what the Nintendo Switch does, and that is you could hook it up to the TV and be able to play it on the TV. So it was a fully portable Mega Drive. It also had a fairly unusual for the time joystick port or joypad port that you could plug in an extra controller. Now, this didn't allow you to be able to use a controller on the go. This was entirely for 2-player games. So if you plugged one in, then the two of you would have to share the screen, and you could play together on the screen. Or if you used the AV out, then the two of you could sit in front of a TV and play the game. It lasted for about 2 to 3 hours, they say, on 6 AA batteries. And as a Game Gear owner myself, I know that you could manage to eke out 3 hours worth of gameplay on 6 AA batteries on the Game Gear. So this was It was a wee bit more power thirsty, but not too bad. It was 3.5 watts as opposed to the Game Gear, which was 3 watts. It had a what was the other little interesting thing that I'd noted down about it? It wasn't the most comfortable looking handheld. It was kind of like a strange wedge where the left hand side was a wee bit longer than the right hand side, which is a strange design quirk if you ask me. If it's not like the Game Gear, but they had to distinguish it from the Game Gear in a very particular way. But it had 6 buttons on the front of it, which mimicked the later Mega Drive Turbo controller, because the first Mega Drive came with 3 buttons and a start button. Then they eventually expanded it because you need it for Street Fighter 2 to be able to have the 6 buttons. And that was a nice thing that they put in there, which wasn't. I don't think they really needed to do it, but for them to continue to sell their entire games catalog, it was a good decision to do that. It was compatible with most of the Mega Drive's peripherals, although it wasn't compatible with the Power Base or the Sega CD or the 32X that came along afterwards. So you couldn't use this to play Master System games on the go because, well, that would be pointless. Just go and buy a Game Gear and you'll get that. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't. But then as you know, I wasn't really in the kind of Sega world. I was more in Nintendo's. This is 1995, it says.
Yeah.
And it really is an odd shape, isn't it? It's, yeah, as you say, on the face of it, it looks like the screen is slanted, but it's not. It's the device that's slanted.
Yeah, the bezel around the screen is a bit of an odd shape as well, where it's one side's longer than the other, much like the whole console.
Yeah, really odd. But yeah, I do remember playing with a Sega machine, as I think we discussed before, and playing Columns. It's played Columns. You remember Columns?
Yes.
And this is kind of Gems game as well, which was and having a colour screen at that time was great because I'd come off of the back of Game Boy, which was mono, and suddenly when I remember playing with the Sega, not this one, but the first Sega I got my hands on, oh wow, it's colour. Forget the fact that it's blocky and horribly the screen is terrible resolution and all the rest of it. It was colour. Whoa!
Hey.
But yeah, this looks like it's certainly interesting. AA batteries as well.
Yeah, so you should love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I guess they discontinued in 1999. It says so. It lasted 4 years technically. Have you still got one?
No, I've never actually had
right.
one. I've never held one.
Okay.
I had the Game Gear, but I was never aware of this whenever it was released.
Right.
I don't think it came to Northern Ireland or whatever, because I would have been on
Okay.
this. I had a Mega Drive around this time, and I would buy gaming magazines, but it wasn't until much later that I found out about this. And at the time, searching for it on eBay and stuff like that, I could never find it. It still fetches a pretty price, especially in the original box. I just had a quick search on eBay there to see if I could see any that were for sale. Yeah. And there's a few auctions that are going where it's sitting between £150 and £300. But there's a fully boxed, mint condition original, untouched from the 90s, that's sitting at £3,500 from Italy.
Wow.
So check your attics and things like that and see if you have one, because you could be sitting on a wee gold mine there.
Did you have a Mega Jet?
No, that's the ones that they put onto planes. I don't think they were really sold to customers. It was more airlines, and then they could plug it into the TV in the back of the seat.
I like the fact that these things used to take AAs though, which kind of is seeping away to some degree. Even if, make the rechargeable batteries AA size. So if the shit hits the fan, you can still go and buy some and put some in. And all right, it might only last you an hour, but at least you could get going again. It's a real shame that AAs seem to be gone away in terms of replaced with lithium ion and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Well, it was actually the death of so many of them as well, because they were generally packed away and put into attics with AA batteries in them.
Right, yeah.
Probably by parents of kids who had gone away to university or something like that, and they've gone, I'll clear out the room and put that up in the attic, and then whenever they've come back, the AA batteries have leaked leaked down into the system, as happened with my Game Gear.
Yeah.
And I'd spent a large amount of money with my Game Gear upgrading the screen from the crap that it was there to a slightly better LCD screen, and now it suffered that while I was away. I was really upset. Still have
What
it.
a shame.
Yeah. So I've got an Amber Nick, and I can now play all my Game Gear games on that instead. So yeah, Sega Nomad. It was a bit of a nomad.
Yeah.
All right, bargain basement time, and we'll start off with me. Okay, yeah, okay. This is a switcher for your TV, where you may have merely 3 HDMIs or 2 HDMIs or even 1 HDMI on the back of your TV. Currently on Amazon, you can get the HDMI switch, which is the Ghana gold-plated 3-port HDMI switcher that only does up to 1080p, but it does do 3D if necessary. And it's a wee box with a cable on the back that you plug into one HDMI, and you can switch between the inputs. It does have a button to be able to switch itself. I have one of these that automatically switches, and it's a bit of a pain. So having that button is much, much better too. Although sometimes you do have to get out of the chair and walk all the way over to the TV to press the button. Yeah, that doesn't go down well. But yeah, it's really handy. It means you can just expand the amount of HDMIs you have by... well, 3.
I have one of these some time ago, and I used to find that it didn't work very well. The best thing for HDMI was to turn the blooming things off and turn them back on again, because it wanted to have a fresh start all the time. But maybe things have changed now. Perhaps they're better.
Well, with the button on the top of this, that would eliminate that problem altogether. But it's down from £16 to £7, 19p, which I think is... That's useful to have, and just gives you a few extra possibilities.
Pretty nice.
Where you might have a couple of MIDI consoles that need to be played.
Good.
In my case.
Very nice.
What's next?
Marshall Stanmore 2, as it's a Marshall week, will have a Marshall item in bargain basement. £204.99, down from £329.99. Although, to be fair, the usual price is more like about... No, hang on a minute. This has gone... Oh, yeah, that's right. The usual price is more like about $250 or so, from what I can see. But yeah, this is one of the beastie ones. The Stanmore 2 is one of the newer ones that has got access to the app that Marshall provide for people's smart devices. It's also got all those lovely hardware buttons on the top, a right old array of them, knobs and dials and buttons and switches. And although I've never heard one of these myself, I bet it sounds like $1 million, because all Marshall stuff does. And I would love to have one of these, but I'm surrounded by Bluetooth speakers and I really don't need it. But anyway, there's a reduction there of 38%.
It has been cheaper before. It's been down to £189, where it dropped to last Christmas. But other than that, this is the best price.
Yeah, very nice. You fancy one of those? Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. There is a third generation out. I'm not quite sure what the improvements are, but it's £350. So this is a real saving.
Marshall always has a lady with tattoos of a claw, adjusting the knobs, and I'm intrigued to see what the rest of that lady looks like. I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's going to be moving over to Zound. That would be nice if she did.
Yes.
Job there.
Stop looking at photos of girlies. What's your next one?
All right, it's the Pixel Buds. The Pixel Buds are only £60 and 78p. I think they're normally around about £100.
Are they? Wow.
if memory serves. And having a look at Keepa, yes, they are.
Right.
They do drop down to about £60 every now and again, but currently on Amazon, and there's a link in the show notes, you can pick them up for £60 and 78p. These are the white ones, or the white case with the black inside. So there you go. Google Pixel Buds.
Right.
Lovely.
Okay. Next up is the WavLink triple display USB-C laptop docking station, which has got more connections than you could possibly hope to want, and 100-watt pass-through charging. There's just tons and tons of connections, all sorts of stuff, which will take forever to list. It's been reduced from $69.99 to $49.99. There's a £10 voucher making it $39.99. So if anyone's in the market for a kind of display dock come kind of adapter thingy, then you could take your laptop and get connected.
Yeah, that's really big. That's really long because of the amount of ports on there. It's a huge amount of ports. So what do we have? We've got, hang on, RG45, USB 2, USB 3, VGA, always useful. DisplayPort, HDMI, PD 3.0, which is max of 100 watts. A USB 3, micro SD, SD card reader, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. It even has little feet underneath it.
Yeah,
to make it sit nicely on the desk.
Maybe
that's cool.
Maybe it's bigger than it seems, or heavier than it seems. Anyway, lots of functionality, and with that voucher, I think that's a bit of a bargain.
Yeah, that's done at what, $39.99 then?
So, indeed, it is.
Whereas reduced from $39.99 down to $29.99 is a similarly themed, but nowhere near as well spec'd, but teeny tiny, is the USB from Ugreen, the USB Type-C hub, which is a multi-port adapter that features 4K at 60 Hz HDMI. It's got 100-watt power delivery, RJ45 Ethernet, 2 USB 3.0 5GB per second, gigabit per second data ports, and a USB Type-C as well, which I suppose is that power delivery port, which is very nice, but it's really tiny. It's like sort of as thick as a pen, maybe, I suppose, maybe a fat pen, but really useful to have and easy to chuck in the basket, or in your bag or in your pocket or something like that, to extend those laptop ports nicely.
Very nice indeed. As you say, much more pocketable than the giant one that I just covered. Lastly, I don't know if you remember, but you brought to the show, not as a bargain basement, but as an upcoming new pair of PC speakers, the Creative Pebble Pro 2.0 USB computer speakers, which are also Bluetooth speakers, so you can pair whatever Bluetooth device you want to as well, but they also plug in by USB-C or USB-A to your computer and give you a computer-based pair of speakers. They're quite powerful, they sound quite good, as you said on the show when they were being released, and the reason they're in bargain basement is because they look good. Oh, they've got LGV lighting as well, so that you get pretty lights around the bottom of it sitting on the desk, which is
RGB,
RGB,
non-lesbian gay.
No, please, family show. And so they're reduced from $79.99 to 30% off, making them $55.99, which is a bit of a bargain. And they look really good, as you said before. They look like they are just the business, and they're very cute looking, and they look very. When you see a picture of them next to on a desk somewhere, they look as though they'll fit around a desk pretty nicely. So yeah, there you go, £55.
Nice. On the back of them, it shows there's a USB-C power delivery as well.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So you can charge your phone over this.
That's
too.
right. You can. No. The USB. Oh, yes, you can do that. But the most significant part of the USB powered socket is that you can up the ante on the output of the speakers. So if you plug in a powerful USB into that, instead of getting the volume at a certain decibel, it hikes it up to a bigger decibel and knocks in this super bass or whatever. So, do you remember us covering them before? They do look good.
Yeah, they look cracker. So what does that work at? $79.99 plus 30% off voucher.
$55.99.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. There's only one left in stock.
Oh dear.
But I'm sure there'll be more delivered soon.
Yeah.
Grand. All right. Well, that's 2 hours and 10 minutes or
Whoops.
so. So we'll have to love you and leave you. If you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at there's Gareth at techaddicts.uk. There's also the Tech Addicts YouTube, or no, not YouTube, Twitter. That's the one, Tech Addicts UK. And then you can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I've put my Mastodon link down in the show notes, so you can find me there. I have my GarethMiles.com that has all my different bits and pieces. And I even took the time to put together a movie review the other day, and it's on there too. And Ted, where can they find you?
Mine's much more simple. It's at tedsalmon.com. Links to all the audio podcasts that I'm involved in go out from there, and also the MeWe groups as well. And if you want to buy me a coffee for what I do, I'd be very grateful. You can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon.
Brilliant. And I guess we could just bid you adieu, and we'll speak to you in 2 weeks' time. Shouldn't we?
We should.
Yes.
And we look forward to it enormously.
Just in time for that alert. But beware, we'll probably put this out after the alert, so we won't be able to help you or remind you, and you'll just jump out of your skin that day.
Bye.
Take care.